Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, please make sure you like, comment and subscribe. It would really help me out. Today I want to talk about this whole Britney Spears situation. So she did her testimony in court um 2 weeks ago now, like 2 whole weeks, and it shook the world. It feels like everyone was shocked to their inner core over the allegations that Britney spoke about, the things that she's been forced to do, the things that have happened to her against her will as part of her conservatorship. And it's shocking because it's hard to believe that, number one, this type of behavior that she described as happening to her can still be happening in this day and age, especially in America, like the land of the free. It's also shocking that it can happen to someone like Britney. I I on purpose haven't recorded anything yet, mainly because I just wanted to digest the things that she said, and I also wanted to see what the follow-up would be. I wanted to see if there'd be any changes. I wanted to see how Team Conservatorship that's what we'll call them. That's Jamie, the management team that she's spoken out against, her family, these people that she's spoken out against as trapping her into this conservatorship, which, by the way, she compared to sex trafficking. The amount of hours that she works, the fact that she's forced to do it. She said the only other thing in the state similar to the way that she's forced to work is called sex trafficking. I do wonder why she picked sex trafficking rather than human trafficking. I wonder where her mind was going that it took her to sex trafficking. Possibly to do with the fact that she has this, what is it, the IUC in her body that she can't have removed. So maybe she's kind of likening it to kind of controllership of her actual body, autonomy as well. Yeah, and I just wanted to see what the fallout of it would be. Would Team Conservatorship get very defensive? Would they back down? Would she be, excuse me, would they be allowed out of the conservatorship? As in, would they allow her out of the conservatorship? Would the petition to terminate actually go in for the first time in 13 years, which that in itself is mind-boggling. How has there not been any kind of paperwork to terminate the conservatorship when we know that she's been wanting out of it? She said that she's been wanting out of it, but she didn't know that she had the right to terminate. There's just so many things around this conservatorship that don't make sense. There's so many varying different sides that don't make sense. And now we have Britney's side. And previously, the Free Britney movement and her fans were kind of labelled fanatic fans, conspiracy theorists. But now they've all been vindicated by Britney herself. We heard directly from Britney. The words came out of Britney's mouth, the way that she wanted to say it. It wasn't controlled. It wasn't controlled by her conservatorship team. It wasn't anyone else speaking on her behalf, because we now know that they've not been doing that right. So yeah, I just wanted to take the time and really digest what was going on and what would happen next. So she gave her testimony. There was a lot of awareness already about Britney's situation and the conservatorship. The Framing Britney Spears documentary at the start of this year really helped bring to light the way that Britney has been treated and how unfair it's been. I kind of feel like they touched upon the conservatorship but didn't really get into the nitty-gritty of it. I wonder if that's because they're just saving it for the next documentary that they do, or maybe they just couldn't access the information that they needed to, or maybe there's certain gags in process, I don't know, that prevent people from talking, prevent people from doing their journalistic bits and pieces, who knows. But I did find it weird that they only touched upon the conservatorship, really. They didn't really go into the conservatorship, but they did bring awareness to it, and I think it brought awareness to Britney in general and the way that she's been treated and how different she's been treated as a woman in the entertainment industry. The first thing about the testimony from Britney that really surprised me And I've been a fan of hers since day one. I remember loving Baby One More Time, the music video. I followed her career for years after that. I memorized all of the lyrics to her songs. So I kind of feel like I had a good sense of, and I watched literally every single interview that she did. So I kind of feel like I had a good sense of what her baseline was in terms of her personality. She's got a very bubbly personality. She's got a very kind of look for the silver lining in everything personality. And over the last couple of years in particular, we haven't, I mean, throughout the entire conservatorship, really, but the last couple of years in particular, I kind of feel like we've not seen an authentic Britney. We haven't seen Britney in a non controlled environment. And we now know just how heavily controlled that environment is. So it's hard to determine what she's like as a personality, what she's like as a human being. You know, you just don't know what her thoughts and feelings are, because from my perspective, it kind of feels like the narrative that they're trying to put around Britney is one of very childlike, very basic. You only ever hear her talking about, this is my favourite colour, these are my favourite snacks, I like to shop. There's nothing really deep and personal that we get from Britney through her music and in her interviews. We now know why, but we've only seen this very light-hearted, very basic part of Britney. And following her Instagram as well, it's very childlike, it's very scattered, it's very kind of nonsensical. And it kind of builds a picture of the person, and one that's, like I say, just very childlike. So it was hard to determine what exactly the baseline there is with her, because there was always these conspiracy theories that we don't know who's controlling what. We don't know how authentic it is. We don't know how much of it is coming directly from her and how much is being created for her. So one of the, getting back to the point that I was trying to make, the thing that really surprised me with the testimony is how passionate she sounded, how well prepared she clearly was. Her thoughts and what she was saying wasn't scattered and here, there, and everywhere the way that the Instagram makes us believe she is. She was very well prepared. She spoke about very personal things, but in a very, not stubborn, but borderline stubborn. Yeah, like she's done. She's absolutely done. There's no room for negotiation left. She's been through enough. Things have happened to her that should not have happened to her. Her mind has not been corrupted. They've not found a way to make her believe that this is okay. She knows it's wrong. She's against it and she wants to speak out. And there was almost this sassiness to her, which I was pleased came through, because as much as what she was saying was emotional and harrowing, I'm glad that there's still this little spark in her that came through in what she was saying. So the way she interrupted one of the lawyers at the beginning where they tried to close the court, and she was like, no, they've exploited me enough. I want people to hear it. When she said, these people need to be reminded that they work for me. Like, damn girl, yes, you're right. What else did she say? When she said, like, I wasn't just good, I was great. Like, there's still that spark in her that hasn't been lost. Through everything that she's been through, she's still got this spark. And that was one thing that really stood out for me, that I really liked. Like, there's still hope for her. They haven't broken her yet. She's still got fight. She still knows who she is. She still knows that she's got it. And she knows that everyone else is relying on her. She's the powerful one in this situation, even if she is in this conservatorship where everything has been taken away from her. She is still the powerful one and she knows it. And I liked that. I like that that came through for me personally from her. I also noticed how she wasn't using that baby voice. I think she naturally has like quite a deep voice that doesn't come through in everything. I think the way she was branded was kind of to use that baby voice because it's such an iconic sound now that we all just kind of relate to her. But again, it doesn't really portray her in the right way because she's not a child anymore. She may have been when she first came into the industry, but she's not anymore. And I don't feel like they've allowed her to grow. And that's what I mean about the narrative. Like, they still want her to be that 16-year-old, probably quite naive, complacent little girl that she once was. And they haven't allowed her to grow and find her own voice. Even though personally she has, that I think she still gets treated like a child because that works for everyone else. She's a 39-year-old woman. She shouldn't be treated like a child anymore. So she spoke about things like being forced to work against her will, signing her up for tours, being threatened that she'd get sued if she didn't do it. She fears repercussions. She fears punishment. So being forced into the mental health facility against her will, being medicated, being put on medication that she just definitely should not be on. They had her on lithium, you guys. Like, that's extreme. That's not something that you would do to somebody who is quite clearly capable of working and touring and doing interviews and doing all the rest of it. Like, she's not somebody who, number one, needs this level of control. I think the conservatorship is just way too much. I feel like she does need guidance, but the conservatorship is just way too extreme for Britney's situation. And having her on lithium is just, that's disgusting. That's disgusting. You can't do that. If she doesn't need it, she doesn't need it. That could do more damage to her than good. That could actually damage her brain. That's serious. You can't just put somebody on lithium because you don't like the decisions that they make. That is not a good enough reason. And she's not a threat to people. Like, she's not collateral damage. You might not like the decisions that she makes, but that's not a good enough reason to put somebody into this kind of situation where their basic rights have been taken away from her. Like, she can't hire her own lawyer. She's lost custody over her children. That's extreme. That's a very extreme measure, given that she's got the capability to do all of these tours, stick to this strict regime. She works hours that the majority of us don't. She's been through things that the majority of us can't even comprehend. And to think that she was doing it whilst medicated, to a point where she felt drunk, to a point where she was struggling to hold conversations. I think the fact that she's still alive shows just how strong she is. And I don't think we should underestimate that, because her strength is just undeniable. It's incredible. So the testimony happened. It was worldwide news. It's garnered the most attention that I think it has to date. And we've got some really big names supporting the Free Britney movement now. So Elon Musk, Mariah Carey. I think Mariah was like one of the first few people to show her support to Britney on social media. I'm pretty sure she tweeted out while Britney was still doing the testimony. Miley Cyrus, she's another one. Christina Aguilera has come forward and expressed her support for Britney. Justin Timberlake did the same thing. Don't really care for Justin, to be honest. I think the slut shaming that he did of Britney, the way he's treated her. I appreciate the support for her now, but I don't know. I can't make my mind up about him. I don't like him. But he came forward with his support for her. I guess support is support. It brings more and more awareness to what's going on, and hopefully the more eyes and ears on this thing, the more likelihood that it will come crumbling down. There's already cracks starting to appear in the conservatorship team. I feel like they're starting to point fingers at each other. So this is what I was really interested in after the testimony. This is what I've been waiting for. I wanted to see how they would react. So the first thing to note is that Britney basically said she wants out of the conservatorship and she wants to do it without a psych evaluation. She's been evaluated enough. She doesn't want to be prodded at anymore. She's done. I don't know what the likelihood of that happening is, but right now, basically 2 weeks on, as far as we know, that the petition to end the conservatorship still hasn't been put in. We heard that the papers had been completed, but as far as we know, the papers have still not gone in, which basically means that they were able to put Britney into the conservatorship faster based on her shaving her hair and doing these minute things that really aren't that big a deal, compared to being able to take her out of the conservatorship, where she's basically called it abuse. I find that mind-boggling. I find it mind-boggling that after everything she said, the judge at the end was basically like, "Oh, thanks for coming forward. That's very strong of you. Now go away and I'll have a little think about it." Why would you send her back to the people that she's just said have been abusing her? That really wound me up. I think that wound a lot of people up. And it quite clearly shows that Britney's views just weren't really heard the way that they should have been, or the judge just isn't doing her job right. I also feel like something that's been overlooked in all of this isn't the first time that the judge and the lawyers have heard any of this. Britney specifically said in her testimony, "The last time I told you this, I felt dead inside. I felt like you didn't hear me. But I'm coming back and I'm saying it again because I'm not lying. This is the truth." Imagine how shocked the world was, the international news that her testimony made. And now think about the fact that the judge already knew all this and did nothing. And it's been going on for 2 years since Britney last stated her concerns. I think that says a lot about the legal system in America. I think it says a lot about the judge. I think it says a lot about the lawyers. I think it says a lot about her dad, because he would have known all this and hasn't done anything to change it. He had nothing to say at the end of Britney's testimony either. The lawyer spoke. Britney's dad's lawyer, who Britney pays for, spoke and basically just said that he's upset that she's hurting so much and that he loves her. And that was it. After everything she said, that was the response. It's not good enough. It's just not good enough. So the petition to terminate still has not gone in. There's still a lot of support for her. I think people are still really shocked by what's gone in. The Free Britney movement are not letting this slide. They're going to keep on this. They're going to keep fighting. They're going to keep finding any and all court documents, any and all clips on YouTube, video, audio, text messages, anything and everything that they can get to showcase really what Britney has been going through and the way that her family are basically scrounging off of her. I think the cracks are appearing in Team Conservatorship though, because there's a little bit of pointing of fingers going on. Jamie's like, "Oh, well, I only manage the money. Everything else is managed by Jodie Montgomery." And Jodie's like, "Well, everything I do is money. Everything is money. It all has to go through Jamie eventually for approval. I can't send her to see a psychiatrist because that costs money and he's the one that signs it off." They're just pointing fingers at each other. They're really trying to wriggle out of their part in the conservatorship. They're really trying to distance themselves from the decision making that has been happening as part of this conservatorship, and it speaks volumes. Nobody has really negated anything that Britney said. They're just pointing fingers. "I didn't do this, you did it. No, I didn't do this, you did it. You have to approve it. No, I didn't do it because I only do this. No, I didn't do it because I'm only part of this and that doesn't give me control over this." It's just back and forth, quite childlike. I love to see it, to be honest, because if they're too busy pointing fingers at each other, hopefully they'll stop treating Britney like shit. If they're too focused on separating themselves and removing themselves, hopefully they'll limit their contact with Britney and stop forcing her to do things that she doesn't want to do. Britney named and shamed everyone though. She was like, she wants to sue her entire family, her management team, everyone. She dragged them all. They're all accountable one way or another. I think ultimately it will just come down to who did the most. And I think in this scenario, for me personally, from my opinion, from what I've heard from Britney, her dad seems to be the one that she kind of attributes a lot of this to, because he just likes the controllership and the power that comes with controlling somebody as powerful as Britney. There's another court hearing on the 14th of July. It's going to be closed. Basically, people were live streaming the audio of Britney's testimony, and the judge didn't want that to happen. I think she specifically said no live tweeting and no recording. Obviously people did that and it's landed on the internet, so you can go out there and find the full testimony recording that Britney said. My mind kind of boggles as to why they are so fixated on it being closed when Britney specifically said that she wants it open. What are you trying to hide? Britney has said all of this before. The public didn't know that she'd said all of this before because it was closed. And because it was closed and because there was no outrage, this treatment of her basically continued to a point where 2 years down the line, Britney has to come back and say, "You made me feel dead last time, but I'm going to come back and I'm going to say all this stuff again." And she made it crystal clear that she wanted it to be open because she doesn't want everything to be hush-hush and hidden away. So it does strike me as quite strange that the court system is so invested in keeping it secret. So there's going to be no more recordings available now. You can't join via audio for a court hearing. Why? Because somebody who called out abuse and said that you didn't do anything to help me is now public knowledge. No, that should be public knowledge. You've done her wrong. The response to that should not be, "Oh, we don't want people joining via audio anymore." No, you do want people joining via audio, because it's the only way we can make sure that what goes on in court is right and that people aren't being abused and taken advantage of and exploited the way that Britney clearly has. And it's only now that we've heard the testimony from her that it's brought to light what she's been going through. But it shouldn't take it being public for her to be heard. I find it really frustrating. My mind boggles at how this situation has even come to be, how they can think that this is okay. There's so many things that just don't make sense that not only her dad has allowed to happen, but so has the judge, so have the lawyers. There's so many people accountable in this situation. Like, why haven't you been doing your jobs? Why have you not been asking basic common sense questions about this conservatorship? Where's the money? Why does Britney need to be in this conservatorship? If she does need to be in this conservatorship, why is she working the way that she's working? It's really frustrating. I feel like this has really taken up a lot of mind space with me because it's just so disgusting the way that she's been treated from the get-go as well. Not even the conservatorship, but from the start of her career. It's mind-boggling. Her strength is incredible. She's more than capable of looking after herself. Just because you don't like the decisions that she makes does not mean she should have all of her rights taken away from her. Anyone who can make millions and millions per year is fine, okay? And if she wants to blow the whole lot on cars or holidays or whatever, let her. It's her money. She's the one that's worked hard for it. She can decide what she wants to do. She's the one that's making the money. It's not for somebody else to say, I don't like the things that you buy, so I'm going to take away all of your autonomy over your expenses, over your entire estate, over your body, over your medical needs, over how and when you can see your children. Like, what did she do to deserve this? Nothing, as far as I can see, nothing. And why was her dad deemed to be the most appropriate person to control her life? He has a history of being declared bankrupt. He has a history of alcohol abuse. He has a history of being abusive towards other people. There's a restraining order against Britney's dad. He's not allowed to go anywhere near Britney's children. Let that sink in for a second. The man who isn't allowed to see her children is allowed to control her life. And as a result of it, I'm sure it's impacted her ability to see her own children as well, because he's the conservator. Why is he deemed to be the most appropriate person? Is there no kind of vetting that goes on when there's a conservatorship and someone needs a guardian? Imagine if there actually is a vulnerable person who can't make decisions about themselves and the court allows an abusive alcoholic to take over them and their body and their estate. At least Britney's strong enough to know that this is wrong. At least she's strong enough to speak out against this. Can you imagine if for a second she actually was a vulnerable person without a platform, without the fan base, without the voice? It says a lot about the conservatorship, guardianship system that they would put somebody who has a history of bankruptcy in charge of such a vast amount of money, that they would put somebody who has a history of alcohol abuse and abuse towards people in general. Like, Britney's mum has spoken out about it. Britney herself has said that she's scared of him and refuses to work while he's in charge. Does that not say anything about the person that you've put in charge? Does that not say anything that maybe this isn't the best person, this is causing more harm to her? And Britney herself has said, this is way more harmful to me than good. She can't sleep, she cries. I can't believe that this would be happening in this day and age to someone like Britney on the world platform. I do like that it's crumbling though. So just yesterday, it was announced that Britney's manager, Mr. Larry Rudolph, has resigned from his role as her manager. You can resign all you want though. If there's any accountability that lays with you, you're going to have to pay the price. Resign or don't resign, it doesn't matter. If you were part of it, Britney's going to call you out. I do have good hopes for this. I feel that there's too many eyes and ears on this situation now, where what they've been doing, it just can't continue anymore. There's people that are literally questioning the judge. They want investigations into the judge. That's serious. I can kind of get my head around how Jamie would be like, oh, I want a piece of this cake, this very large cake. But he couldn't have executed all of this without help from other people. And the fact that people are questioning the judge, I think that's messy. That's messy because the judge is supposed to be honourable. And if she's been making decisions that aren't right, if she hasn't been questioning things, if Britney has told her things around the conservatorship being abusive and the judge chose not to do anything about that. That's not a good look. It's definitely not a good look. And this is much bigger now than just the Britney army. It's much bigger than her fans. Like, there's some big, big names getting involved in this now. And not just celebrities. This is more than just pop culture. This is one for the law. This is one for the government. It's probably one for the FBI to look into too. I hope the FBI have caught wind of this and are looking into it, because it's more than just abuse as well. It's like corruption, really. If they can't determine the exact reasons why Britney was put into this conservatorship and fully be able to justify it, it's not going to be a good look, especially if you think about how much money of Britney's has gone into this, especially if you think about the fact that she's saying that she was forced to work. That's human trafficking. It's exploitation. Her children were used against her. I would say look into how this conservatorship came into play. Was due process followed? Should Britney really have been put into the situation where she couldn't even hire her own lawyer? Why was that stripped away from her? Surely that's her constitutional right as an American citizen. So why was she not allowed to hire her own lawyer? If she was deemed mentally incapable, which doctor signed off on that? What examination took place to justify that? And if she was deemed mentally incapable, why was she back on television like within months of that decision being made, where she was memorizing lines in an acting gig? 2 and 2 isn't giving us 4. And I think that's where the conservatorship team will really struggle, as long as they are asked the right questions. I think the reason that they've gotten away with so much is because nobody's been asking the questions. It's like they're just saying whatever they want to say, and it's like, oh yeah, sure, okay, she can be in a conservatorship. Oh yeah, sure, okay, you can spend her money like this. Oh yeah, sure. Oh yeah, sure. Oh, like why is what they're doing being approved? Why is what they are doing okay and not being questioned? I think the conservatorship are desperate to showcase Britney in a way where she's childlike, she's not entirely with it, she needs looking after. But is that a good enough reason to put her in a conservatorship when she's actively working? And if she is as ill as they say she is, why were they forcing her to work? And even if they can prove that Britney wanted to work, surely the conservatorship team then should have said, actually, no, because your health isn't right and we need to kind of monitor this and we can't have you following these strict schedules. Like, they can't say that she's incapable of making decisions and then say she was the one that wanted to work, so we let her. Like, it just doesn't go hand in hand. If you're happy for her to make the decision to work, then why can't she make the decision to hire her own lawyer? Why is she not allowed to drive? What's wrong with her driving? If she's able to do backflips and all sorts of crap on stage, why can't she just do a basic thing like drive her car? I do think this will crumble. I do think Britney will come out of the conservatorship team, and I hope that everyone involved in this is held accountable and pays the price. I'm going to keep an eye on this. Let's watch this space, but I do have good hopes for her. I just feel like there's way too many eyes on this now for anything to go unresolved. It has to be resolved now. There's just too many people watching this. It's made its way into the law system. We've got senators talking about this. This is more than just pop culture now. This is a law situation. It's one for the government to step in on and go, maybe we have a situation here that's allowing people to be exploited. I've got a feeling Britney's going to make history again. I think that laws will change as a result of this. Go Britney. Free Britney.